All right, I was driving this actress, and we got stuck at the motel. There was a storm, and we couldn't get out. We couldn't get out because of the storm.
What happened at the motel?
People started dying.
Okay, we're going now. Let's go.
Hello and welcome. Welcome and hello. This is Wait, You Haven't Seen? It's a show where we talk about movies, and specifically, we talk about a movie at least one of us has never seen before. I'm your host, Travis, aka TV's Travis. This is episode number 243, and our movie this week is 2003's Identity, starring John Cusack and Ray Liotta, and a whole host of others. And here to talk with me about it, he had never seen it before, it's Jonathan Bush. Jonathan, how you doing?
Hello. Hey, Travis, how are you?
I am quite well. So you hadn't seen this before.
No, I had never even heard of it until you mentioned it and said, I've literally been waiting this entire run of the show to watch this movie. But everyone I ask, this is a direct quote, I swear. And everyone I ask has seen it. And so you haven't. And so here's my chance. And
that
I
is
said,
true.
okay, let's go.
So I'll give a little bit of
absolutely believe it.
Yeah, I'll give a little bit of my history with this movie. I first saw it, so it came out in 2003. I probably saw it, I don't know, a couple of years later. I remember, I think I picked it up at a rental store, and I just was like, "Hey, John Cusack, all right, Identity sounds interesting. Sure, let's check it out and watch it." And I was blown away by it when I first saw it. I really loved the concept behind it. I'm a sucker for a murder mystery, so they kind of already had me with that as soon as that started to unravel. And over the years, it's been one of those smaller movies, because I can't really call it like a tiny movie, but it's lesser known. And because of that, I kind of champion it as like, oh no, if you like murder mysteries, if you like thrillers, this is one you should check out. And the director, James Mangold, has gone on to do a lot. And we're going to talk about him later, because he has done a lot of stuff. That was the other selling point for me, was it was John Cusack and it was James Mangold, because I had seen a couple of his other movies prior to this one. So first question I have to ask to you. So you hadn't heard of it before. So you sat down to watch it. What was your initial impression? Like, what did you think when the movie, as it was unfolding, were you kind of figuring out where it was going, or like sort of what was that experience like?
Kind of. I think Roger Ebert talked about how it starts out kind of slow and like a little pedestrian, but then it takes a turn. And I can see that. I haven't seen it, but in just what I know about it, I kind of compared it in my mind to I don't remember the entire name, but the El Royale movie with John Hamm in it, the murder mystery.
Bad Times at the El
thing.
Royale. Yep.
Yeah. And like I knew it wasn't the same, but that kind of, not just because it happened at the motel, but like the serial violence and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's just kind of where it sat. And so as it went, I just kept I just kind of kept letting it evolve and just kind of settled into it.
Sure.
It wasn't until about like about halfway through the movie that I really dug in to try to figure out where it was going. I mean, of course, from the start, I was like, okay, where is this going? But like, it was just, it was like, I don't know, it didn't exactly stand out until, like I said, about the halfway point, I think.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of, while it's not an adaptation of, it's a bit of a loose retelling of Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None.
Yeah.
Which they even reference in the movie. The Ginny talks about the movie where the 10 strangers go to the island and all that. And that's that book. And so they kind of took that. But what I really liked about what this movie did was it took a murder mystery. It added in some different elements that play with your head at first. So kind of these, is it supernatural? Is everything that's happening what you think is happening? And then it took a different turn And look, I'm going to say right now, this early in the show, we're going to spoil the movie. So if you haven't seen it
Yeah,
before,
yeah. There's no way around it. You have
yeah.
to like just drop it.
And there's no way to talk about this without spoiling it. So if you haven't seen it before, take the chance to watch it. It's really worth watching. And then come on back, and we'll continue the conversation with you. But what I loved about it was that twist. That twist isn't even, I mean, twist is the word, but like that direction change where now all of a sudden we're going to add in another layer of things, which is we had these two stories kind
Mhm.
of going simultaneously, right? There's the
Right.
story of this stay of execution meeting in the middle of the night for a convicted killer,
Mhm.
and then intercut with this group of people at a motel in the middle of nowhere that are stuck there. And then when you figure out and it is revealed to you that, oh, this is all connected inside the mind of this one person, I was like, that's brilliant. Because think about how many times movies or shows try to get inside the mind of the killer, right? That's been a really popular
Right.
thing in the last 20 something years, even further than that. And this one does it like literally going inside of the mind of the killer, which I thought was kind of
Mhm.
it was a fresh, especially the first time I saw it, was a very fresh feeling idea.
Mhm.
Um, one of
Yeah,
the, go ahead.
especially the way they do that, because like there kind of to your point, there are several movies where like that kind of like where like it can be kind of depicted that way, but the way Mangold went about it, just it like that's where it stands out
Hmm.
to
Absolutely.
me, because like that feels like they didn't just take a turn. They took like like it was like a double triple turns out thing going on, because like first they talk about the birthdays and how that's all connected, and then he's talking about all the territories and all the people with the last name of Visiana, and
Yeah.
and like how all of that goes together, and you're like, so we're leaning into the tribal lands, okay, I don't know, as long as it's not Cold Creek Manor, I can ride with this, and like, but they turn that way, and then they completely like turn another way, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah,
And just the way they bend into that was so like it elevated it to me, the
it
way
did.
they took care with that.
And one of the things is, so this was written, the screenplay was written by a man named Michael Cooney, who prior
Mhm.
to this was most known for the horror movie Jack Frost in 1997. He wrote and directed that and its sequel. Um,
Okay,
which
not the Michael Keaton movie.
No, not that one.
Okay.
And they're not good. Like Jack Frost is not great at
Right.
all. And the
Yeah.
sequel, worse. So he wrote this, but it's a testament, I think, to it was a pretty. I have a feeling like this was a pretty decent script, but when it got into the hands of James Mangold, and he took it and put this cast together and this project together, and I think he elevated it beyond what the script initially was, because
Right.
there are logical leaps you have to take in order to accept this
Mhm.
movie. But I think that
Mhm.
Mangold is so good at character pieces. I mean, he I loved his movie I saw in the theater, Girl Interrupted, which was fantastic.
Oh
Um,
yeah, amazing movie.
and a couple years before that, he did one called Copland with Stallone and Ray Liotta and Harvey Keitel and all this, about a sheriff in New Jersey who is in a town with a bunch of corrupt cops. Like they all live there, but they're New York cops. It's a fantastic movie.
Mhm.
And Mangold is so good with characters, and they did such a good job with identity of, all right, we're going to cast all these characters, and they're going to be caricatures. They're going to be a little bit overblown for each thing that they are, but they're going to be
Mhm.
memorable. And they put the right actors into the right roles, and with Mangold's direction and keeping everything small, it all happened at the motel. even the flashback stuff, like the way the movie opens up with sort of the disjointed time of like we meet a character and then we quick flashback, get a little bit of backstory about them, and then come back to present.
Yeah.
All of that takes place like
Hmm.
on the road leading to the hotel.
Right.
And so it's all this self-contained small stuff that I liked quite a bit. I'm a sucker for sort of that non-linear storytelling as well. So I kind of liked
Hmm.
where you would see somebody and then you would like flashback. And even with Paris, when we see her, we see the shoe, which flashes back to her. And then she flashes
Hmm.
back to previous to that. And then we have to come back out of that. It's like an inception layers of stuff that you have to then, pull ourselves out of. I thought was kind of fun. And it gives you some hints that some of these characters might have more hidden than others because we don't get that for every single character, but it
Right.
feels like you do. So that especially that
Hmm.
first watch, you're just sort of like, oh, okay, all right, and you're not like you don't consciously think, wait a minute, what about Ray Liotta? He just pulls up, but by that point the
Hmm.
pacing of the movie's been going in such a way that like we don't need that, right? We've already had that moment in the
Right.
movie, and now we're on to a different thing. So I kind of liked being able to do that, and I just think that this was the project Mangold did right before he made Walk the Line. So he did his Johnny Cash biopic in Walk the Line right after this. Uh, and then he did 310 to Yuma after that. Like, I mean, just great movies all
Oh,
around.
yeah.
And so I enjoyed that. And this cast is incredible up and down. And it basically
Hmm.
all takes place at the hotel and in the courthouse, in that one room in the courthouse. Um,
Yeah.
did anybody in the cast outside of, because I know when I mentioned this movie and you saw Ray Liotta was in it, you latched onto him immediately. But let's let's
Yeah.
let's table Ray Liotta for just a minute. We're gonna get to him.
Sure.
Was there anybody else in the
Yeah.
cast that really stood out to you as like either you were surprised when you saw their name pop up or you saw them pop up on screen, or you really enjoyed the performance they gave?
Um. Let's see. Let me look at this.
Because this is a cast just full of
Um.
like amazing people.
Yeah. What's his name? Pruitt Taylor Vance. I'm a big fan of The Mentalist, and he was on there at the beginning of season 2.
Oh,
Played
that's right.
a really good, interesting role. That you kind of hate while you're watching it, but then at the end of his run, he has like a big, like meaningful kind of redemption moment.
Hmm.
Um, and like, so to see him in this crazy killer role was interesting. Him and his crazy Columbo eyes. Um, but like he he was so like just I fe- especially on the second watch, I felt like he really captured something about Malcolm, which I mean, that's what you're supposed to do as an actor.
Sure.
But like like the way they went back and forth with him and Cusack in that chair after the reveal,
Yeah.
and the way he seemed, I don't know, he just dug into it a certain way and made it so believable that that's what Malcolm was going through
Hmm.
to me.
Yeah, he is an
Um,
actor I have loved for decades now.
yeah.
I remember seeing him. He did like he played in an episode of Highlander way back in the 90s. He was in Mississippi Burning back in 88. Like, but
Mm-hmm.
I loved him in his small role in Constantine. Um, and obviously this, he was a character in a short-lived TV show right around the time of this. I think it came out in 2004. It was an American remake of Touching Evil, which was a British miniseries.
Mm-hmm.
And he played a character named Cyril Kemp in that. And in that, his character believed that he was from another planet, and he would black out and have dreams, and that was our reality. And then when he would black out in our reality, it was him going back to his normal reality. And he was just so compelling in that role. He's got this ability to to portray vulnerability that
Yes.
that seems like there's an innocence to him, but he can also be very menacing, and it works in this role.
Hmm.
Part of that
Yeah.
obviously is the nystagmus in his eyes, like the fact that that his eyes do that compulsive and it's just
Jittering.
the jittering and the movement in it gives him like a
Yeah.
to
It's
if you
very
just watch him,
wily.
it's wily, but it's also like it's so out of the ordinary of what we're used to seeing that
Right.
it feels very like strange and off-putting in a way. Um,
Hmm.
but he can also, like I say, he can also come across just very innocent and very friendly. And
Hmm.
I enjoy that about, like, he's just compelling to me on screen all the time. Anytime I see him, whether he's playing a
Yeah.
good person, a bad person, conflicted. And so to have him be the one with the multiple personalities, with the dissociative identities, was perfect. Um, because I think
Yeah.
that he really
I felt
gives
that
you
was
that.
great.
Yeah. Because you're right. He does dig into it, and
Mhm.
it gives it, there's
Yeah.
something there. That scene where with John Cusack in the chair, the way that whole thing plays out and the
Mhm.
reveal is so well
Yeah.
done because both their performances just kill it. Because Cusack is playing
Mhm.
Ed and is Ed, and then when Malcolm sees, as Ed sees the face that isn't his, what he's expecting to see, it's just crazy. Like it's so, he just jumps right away and he like starts freaking out, and then they cut and they bring it back to Pruitt Taylor Vince now, and I loved every second of that. Like I just loved that reveal, and the performances are what drove it for me.
Yeah.
So
And like, oh God, Cusack is so good in that scene.
he really
He
is.
is like just. I mean, he's great throughout it whole with his whole stoicism with everything. But like,
Hmm.
just my God, he's so it. It's really hard to put into words because like when you're watching it, you're like it puts you in the mindset of like totally of what it would be like to go through that, and it just you don't you don't lose focus on that because they both sell it so well
Yeah.
and together.
Hmm.
Like it's just that's that was like a special moment I feel in this movie.
Yeah, because stoicism is the perfect way to put it. Like Cusack's character is so reserved and stoic throughout most of the movie, and everything that he sees and comes into contact with, for the
Hmm.
most part. Like, yeah, there's a scene where he and Leota are yelling at Larry, but he's still very
Hmm.
calm and collected. And in this moment, he's like, he knows the doctor, and he knows that, he kind of knows that part of it, but then when he tells him, no, you're one of this person's identities, and he just, that response of like, what? Like, no, there's no, like, you're talking nuts here. And then to see the wrong
Hmm.
face and he immediately starts to freak out, you really feel for it at that point. And so that being the
Yeah.
perfect moment to then flip it to Malcolm. And now we go from being the audience as seeing the personality in the chair to now we see the personality inside the person, and we are now another person in that room viewing him.
Right.
And
Hmm.
because we've spent so much time with John Cusack as Ed, to have things that Ed would be saying coming out of Pruitt Taylor Vince's mouth
Hmm.
really just like it jars you a little bit, and it's perfect
Hmm.
for the scene and for the movie. So yeah, I latched on. That was one of my notes that I took this time around, was like, I just love that scene so much. Um,
Yeah.
the way it's all put together and staged out, and Cusack and Pruitt Taylor Vince are just masterful.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. Jake Busey kind of stood out, but he's Jake Busey. That's kind of his job.
Right.
I feel. At one point, I wrote down that he kind of looked like Nick Carter from the Backstreet Boys in this.
that hair that
And
hair did it. Yeah.
that just, yeah, it's the hair and the weird lighting that they have on him all the time.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just like, um,
I mean,
But
he's like the one character at the motel.
he's such a troll. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's the one character that gets like almost nothing to do at the motel, right? Because they show up,
Right.
he gets shackled to the toilet, but then disappears. He does have the great
Mhm.
moment I loved because again, up until like the first part of the movie, we're sort of given the idea that like, okay, these people are waiting in a courtroom for the prisoner to show up. And then you've got these people at the motel and things are going weird at the motel. And then the prisoner transfer shows up at the motel. And so they're leading us to think that this is Malcolm Rivers, even though we're never really given
Right.
the name um, at first. And so we're led in that direction. And we haven't gotten quite to the supernatural stuff yet. So I love that. And I love that when the character of Maine, Busey's character, gets out, people start dying. They're looking for him,
Mhm.
and he's running away, and he goes through that little gulch, and he comes out the other
Mhm.
side, and all you see is buildings. And he's like, "Cool, I'm getting away." And he gets to the building, and that whole reveal up until he goes to the window, and then you realize, oh, he's back in the motel. He's now inside the diner, which
Mhm.
is a room we haven't been in yet.
Right.
And that was I think brilliantly done in order to kind of hide the fact, because the one chance we had to go into the diner before this, a couple, it was either, well, diner's closed, there's no food, or we need the thread, and he's like, oh, I'll get it, it's locked up. And so then Larry just disappears and comes back with what he needs. So we haven't been in the diner yet, so we don't know what it looks like. And I love that as the reveal of like, wait, what is going on? Because you can sort of trick yourself into being like, he just got himself turned around. It's the desert and it's pouring rain.
Right.
Um,
Mhm.
so I just really enjoyed that. And it's unfortunate, like with this kind of an ensemble, there's always going to be a couple of characters that just don't have as much screen time as others. And Busey
Right.
was one that didn't, but he made the most
Mhm.
of his few minutes on screen.
Oh yeah, he ate up every scene he was in.
It helps that you
Like,
got that, that Busey teeth, those Busey teeth,
yeah,
right?
well, my gosh, he sounded so much like his dad in this one.
He really did.
Like sometimes he does, sometimes he didn't, but like just every time he opened his mouth, I heard old Gary. Um, Somebody else that stood out was John C. McGinley.
Yeah,
Um, and I'll be honest, never seen Scrubs, but like I've seen scenes. I know who he is,
sure.
and just the character was so different and yet kind of the same. Just because he's such, I mean, he's that person. It was just like a more extreme version of it, and not like happy, joyful. A lot more sullen and anxious.
Hmm. Yeah, I like John C. McGinley. Is funny is that I think of him as Dr. Cox from Scrubs a lot because I did watch Scrubs, but
Hmm.
also he popped up in a lot of like early to mid 90s kind of action movies and thrillers in these smaller roles. Like he's got a small role in The Rock. He's got a part in Seven where he's a SWAT team member. And he was like this just super serious guy. But then all of a sudden he pops up in like Office Space as one of the Bobs, and he's just hilarious. And here he's playing this really like just just restrained, or not even restrained but constrained character
Hmm.
that's so different from others that we've seen him do. He's great. I love all the different the range that he can have, because I bought
Yeah.
him as that character. uh,
Hmm.
I didn't
Same.
I didn't see Dr. Cox. I saw John C. McGinley playing this other character, which was great.
Right.
The one that stuck out to me is I love John Hawkes. And
Oh
Larry
yeah.
Larry is great in this. I John Hawkes is great in anything I see him in. I talked about him
Hmm.
recently in American Gangster. He was awesome. And this character of Larry is one of them that does get a little bit more screen time, and they do reveal some things about it. And I liked the layered reveals of stuff too.
I did too. Yeah.
Um, I loved how like you meet him and he's just the guy running the motel, but then there's that little montage moment with the music where it's going to each of the different rooms, and you start to question
Hmm.
everybody, right? Like
Hmm.
Paris has just a suitcase full of cash, and we're not sure, did she make all that money or did she steal some of that money? Like,
I
what's
mean, she's
her
a
angle?
prostitute, so
So, yeah. And like the first thought is, no, she was just saving up her money. But at the same time, you're sort of like, that's a lot of just cash to have laying around. And while
oh
she's
yeah,
doing
that's true.
that, you've got Lou in the other room who isn't in bed with his wife and is sleeping on the couch and ignoring her and watching like from under the door as Paris moves around in the next room. And you get that
Mhm.
shot of Rhodes, Ray Liotta's character, getting up, and all we've seen him so far is as a corrections officer, but now he's got like a big blood stain on the back of his shirt. And Larry's in the office like putting stuff away, like a picture of some other guy with a fish and all this kind of stuff. So it's like you don't know who, like, anybody's angle. You don't know what they're doing. And I liked all
Mhm.
of that. And then to learn, who Larry was as it went along, that that whole sequence was great. That really, I think, ramped things up to sort of have,
Mhm.
because it starts uh, them seeing Larry's not in the diner with Maine, right? They've because they've caught him, they've tied him up to a post in there, and they told Larry to stay with him, and then he's not in there,
Mhm.
and so they go in and they find Maine dead, and that by the way was a shot that the first time I watched the movie was like, oh, okay, all right, and
Yeah. Yikes.
And apparently, according to the trivia, so take it with a grain of salt, uh, the
Mhm.
the full size dummy that they used for that scene, one of the
Mhm.
producers, I think, wanted it and took it to his office and put it in a storage closet, um, and apparently scared like a
Okay.
cleaning lady because she, like, this cleaning person opened up the closet
Oof.
one night while they were and screamed, and so they got rid of it. But it's like, yeah, it's a little weird. You want the the dummy, huh? The dummy with the bat sticking out of it. Sure. That's
Wow.
not strange at all. Um,
No, no.
but I
I
dug.
gotta say something about the fight, like after he found the diner.
Uh-huh.
The way when John Cusack lays this square punch on the back of his neck.
Oh yeah.
Holy crap. Like that was such a good shot. Like just
And again, like, that scene is some of that subtle layering of the Rhodes character,
yeah.
right? Because, like,
Mhm.
that's now the second time we've seen Rhodes literally beat on the convict that he's supposed to be transporting in front of other
Mhm.
people. Like, corrections officers just wouldn't be doing that, especially not in
Mhm.
plain sight of civilians. um,
Right.
which is, and he's already been a little bit like high strung and very Ray Liotta. So um,
Mhm.
it's kind of
Very.
one of those things where it's like, this guy isn't all he's cracked up to be. On top of the whole image of him with the bloody shirt, and you're just like, wait, what is that? And he puts his jacket back on so nobody sees it. So I was just loving all of that, and then the whole reveal with Larry, and that scene kills me because Larry explaining what happened to him. That's our backstory for him, and
Uh-huh.
he's so convincing with it, right? Like
Mhm.
his story. I love the line right afterwards from Paris of like, "Well, it's so ridiculous; it just has to be true." Like,
Yeah.
but the thing in his story that sells it for me, uh, as like, oh no, I believe this is actually what Larry went through, is the well, I wasn't trying to hide him. It was just really hot out when he talks about putting the body in the freezer. Like the way he says that, I'm
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, no, that's 100%. This guy's just completely like making things up as he went along and thought it's hot. I'll put this body in the freezer so it doesn't start to stink. I just,
Mhm.
for some reason, I just love that. And it made his story believable for me.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't know. I've never had to hide a body before, but in that situation, what else are you going to do? It's the desert. What's in the desert?
Yeah. Well, and
Like,
like his story makes sense too, right? If he's in Vegas, he
right.
loses everything. He's got nothing but the gas in his
Mhm.
car, and he shows up at this motel and finds the proprietor dead. And then somebody comes walking in. What's he going to do? Like, it's both ridiculous, and yet at the same time, you could see somebody in his position being desperate enough that they're like, maybe I can get away with this.
Just throwing caution to the wind and saying go for it.
Yeah, because like, what does he got to lose at that point?
Exactly.
So
about Ray Liotta. Let's go
Okay.
ahead and
let's do it.
touch. I don't know. Honestly, this is the only movie I've seen with him.
Really?
Yeah. I've never seen Casino. Not Casino. Goodfellas.
Yeah.
See what I mean. But like I only knew my only inroad to Ray Liotta was GTA Vice City, where he played the main protagonist.
That's right.
was
You did the
Tommy
voice work for
Vercetti.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he did great in it. But I mean, it's Ray Liotta,
Mhm.
and watching this, I heard so much of that because he's always just playing himself. Not that that isn't good. He is great at playing shades of himself and amping certain things up in certain situations. But I saw so much of that, and it was just great to finally put that with the voice and the acting and everything that I knew, because I already thought he was great
Mhm.
in GTA, but I don't know. Yeah, he was great in this. He was great at being the unhinged Italian guy. The shootout at the end, fantastic. Between him and Cusack. I
I
don't know.
love
He
that.
just seemed for what his role was. He seemed perfect for it.
Yeah, he was the perfect casting for that because you sort of don't trust him the moment you see him.
Yeah, like
And
something's going on.
yet I have seen him play good characters enough
Uh-huh.
that it's like, okay, no, he's just a cop. You know, he plays a lot of cops and stuff involved in that. But you're also like, yeah, but it's Ray Liotta. He's like 1 second away from snapping and just going nuts on people anyway. So
Yeah.
kind of works. A few good movies to watch with him in it. I'll just tell you these right now. Goodfellas is one.
Sure.
Copland, I mentioned earlier, is fantastic, and he is really good in that. I liked No Escape. If you like kind of cheesy mid 90s like action movies that are just high concept kind of sci-fi action, it's a prison island movie. He gets dropped into a prison island, and it's nuts. It's completely crazy, but it's a lot of fun. So No Escape is a great one.
Right.
Another good one that is a little bit under the radar is from 2002, so just before this, called Narc. And he is amazing in it, and that movie is fantastic. Heartbreakers, Wicked Kitten in the chat is mentioning. If you and that movie is, I think, also kind of underrated. He pops up and stuff, and he's always good. I very rarely saw Ray Liotta be like bad in something. And Smokin' Aces is another one that's just a dumb action movie that's a lot of fun. But there was something about him in this because he did toe that line until he finally has kind of his blowout moment in the hotel room, which we'll get to in a little bit because we have some audio from that. But yeah, he was a lot of fun in that because it's always there's an intensity to Ray Liotta. Even the scene, because the other thing is the reveals of him not being above board and not being kind of who he says he is start almost right away with like he's very cordial and very just sort of straightforward when he's talking to Larry at first, right? And even Ed, but then it goes right into being creepy with Paris, where he sees her at the vending machine, and like that whole scene plays out where he's just, I mean, it's like creep factor is at a high.
Yeah, all the alarms.
You know, where he's just staring at her while he's reaching into his pockets for like change and stuff like that. And you're just like, yeah, like icky. And it just kind of goes from there. Even little things like when he comes back into the room and Ed asks him right away, you know, hey, any luck on the radio? And he says no. And then at the end of that scene, he goes, well, maybe we should take turns on the radio if that's okay. And he's like, no, it's not okay. And you can
Yeah,
sort of,
like,
you can dismiss that as like a cop that doesn't trust other people,
mhm.
but also he doesn't want to reveal that he's not actually a corrections officer and he's ripped the radio out. So it's just really, really well, I think, put together. And we haven't mentioned Paris yet, Amanda Peet.
Yeah, I was actually about to bring her up too. She's her character is also great. Almost all the characters in this movie
Mhm.
were really good. There weren't any. There weren't a lot of like dud moments. Like the mom, uh, fine, Rebecca De Mornay.
Oh, the
That's
actress. Yeah. Yeah.
this is like the least of her roles. Um, but but aside from that, almost everybody in the movie like just sold their role. And yeah, I wouldn't quite say this is better than it deserves, because I mean that's a pretty good cast. This deserved to be a good movie,
Mhm.
and it was, but it was a little better than you expected. I felt like
Yeah. I will say
like
Rebecca De Mornay in this, while it's probably not her best role, she plays this role so well, right? Because she is the
yeah.
over the top caricature of like an actress that is just full of ego
Oh, sorry,
and wants to think of like all the, all the little people, right? But
sorry. She's the actress. I was thinking of Timothy's mom. Like
oh,
that's the only one where there wasn't much to do.
yeah.
Like she got struck with a car and she had to fake being suffocated to death. Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
um, but but yeah, the actress was actually really also really good. And really really fastidious and really selfish and just totally up her own butt.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and she just like doesn't care about anyone else at all, and just sees them as like means to an end. Even Cusack,
right.
who's driving her, like she's berating him and yelling at him
Mhm.
immediately, and the whole moment where she tells him, don't get out of the car, you're taking responsibility, and he's like, it is my responsibility. Like she's just,
When saw that the second time, knowing the thing of the movie and how they're in Ed/Malcolm's head,
mhm,
I was like, oh, it is his responsibility. Holy crap!
yeah,
Yeah, this movie has so much symbolism in it.
it really does.
But, yeah.
Yeah, it does, because you get these, and repeated watchings give you new things. Now, here's something I did not notice. I have seen this movie several times. It's one of those, like I say, I saw it a couple of years after it came out on home video, and then it's one that I've gone back to and revisited every few years. I'll watch it because I'm just like, yeah, you know what, I enjoy this. And two things this watching I had never noticed before. Okay,
Uh,
so first one is there's the shot of George when he's changing the tire on the car,
I wrote
and
that down too.
his
Yeah, go
wife
ahead.
his wife is
Mhm.
standing there with the umbrella, right? She's holding it over him, and they have a little mini argument. But the shots of George, you see the headlights of the car in the back of it,
Mhm.
and I've never noticed those before. I don't know why,
Oh,
because it's not like they're trying to hide it, but I've just never noticed like the car, the limo is in the background of that shot. It's not actually, it's probably
yeah.
just stage lights, but it was,
When it shows up, it seems to show up out of nowhere.
yeah,
But you're saying they actually allow you to plainly see it coming.
yeah, like
But it's
basically
just yeah.
yeah, it's there. And I was like, ooh, I hadn't noticed that before. That's really cool. And the other one, and again, I hadn't noticed this in all the times that I've watched it, is when we cut back to Caroline in her room and she's talking into the mirror and
Mhm.
kind of psyching herself up to talk to her agent or whatever. Um, just as she is talking, we're seeing the shot in the mirror. In the drapes behind her is
Mhm.
the killer. You can see the face.
Hmm.
He's like standing behind it, and it sort of gets illuminated a little bit more with the lightning, but I've never seen it before.
Okay.
And it's one of those where it's like,
Neat.
here's the movie being clever and kind of showing some of its cards early, but in
Mhm.
such a subtle way that if you're not looking for it, You're not
Yeah.
going to pay attention because the whole shot, the way it's framed, you're focused on Caroline. You're focused on what she's
Mhm.
doing with her and with her
Yeah.
stuff in front of her. You're not looking and paying attention to that background, and it's very, very subtle. But I loved that. So that was a really cool thing that I was like, I never saw. I've seen this movie how many times? I never saw it. They give away that it's Timmy right there without
Yeah.
giving away that it's Timmy. Um,
Yeah.
and I just thought that was really cool. So I had to mention that.
Um,
Yeah, go ahead.
no, something else about the tire change that I noticed.
Mhm.
In that argument, they're arguing over why George keeps buying bad tires and keeps plugging the bad tires and doesn't buy replacement tires because they're having to put all their money to go to send Timmy to the right school.
Yeah. Yep.
And like, and there's this the the selfishness about George. Like he gets between Timmy and the mom a lot. Doesn't give an F about him. Um, doesn't really pay attention to his feelings or anything like that. Um, just says, "Oh no, go outside. I have to stand guard. I can't take care of you. Go see the prostitute. You're good." Um, and even like when Timmy is okay, so when the mom wakes up and says, "Where's Timmy?" and Timmy comes over and they have their moment, like the dad almost gets between him and the mom, and it's just he is so anxious about anything bad happening to this woman. You kind of start to wonder, is this like a complex or is he just really endeared to her? Like what's going on? There's something
Yeah.
a little bent about it.
It's tough too because when you get the reveal that he's a stepdad, that
Right.
Timmy's real dad left, and
Like what's going
so
on? Like what emotions are we dealing with?
yeah,
Like
we
what's
don't.
what's what's that part of the story?
And we never get any of that. We never get any resolution to that. So
Sure.
it kind of has that feel of like he wants to do okay, but he doesn't know how, and he's not, and
Right.
he can't really function without Alice in that role.
Right.
Like he doesn't feel as though he
Mhm.
has any connection with Timmy to be able to function there. So he just doesn't know what to do. Um,
Right.
so yeah, that was an interesting dynamic. And then obviously on rewatchings, you look at Timmy a lot differently too. Like that character,
Sure.
um, because the kid in the first watching of it and not knowing anything, him not being a major player doesn't really matter because he's just a kid and he's there and he's lost his mom and he's just grieving that, right, and dealing with the fact that his mom is injured and he doesn't know anything. Like that's kind of how you can read that. And then when you watch it again and you sort of know the reveal that he's the dominant personality that has all the anger pent up, uh, and
Mhm.
explodes with that, like now you suddenly start watching him very differently all the way through, and it's kind of cool the way they were able to do that without. It's sort
Mhm.
of a, I mean, it was a whole lot of Kaiser Soze going on there, where
Oh
they're
yeah.
not revealing with they're not revealing anything, but they're sort of hints, and you can pick up on it if you pay attention that second time. Um, and with all the characters, like all those characters in the motel, just they all have something going on. I mean, the least developed of them are Busey's character, and then Ginny and Lou, um,
Yeah.
which I will say, for all of the characters to be named after like cities and states and stuff, Louisiana is
Oh my god, that makes me want to die.
that was a bit of a stretch. Like Michael Cooney, you could have done better, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Come on.
even their dynamic was compelling enough of like the young newlyweds, and then you find out, oh, they only got married because she said she was pregnant, and then oh no, she lied about that just to get hitched to him because and then I like his response to that is like, what are
How
we,
she was trust.
15? you know
Uh huh.
it's kind of this like high school drama. um and she, because Ginny is incredibly emotional about everything, so it makes more sense why she's the one freaking out early and having these kind of mini breakdowns when you learn that that's just sort of her personality. She is more prone to that than the rest of these people, because they're all slices of they're not all like fully realized, individuals in the sense of like a three-dimensional person,
Mhm.
which normally you would say is either lazy writing or you just don't have time to develop them. But in this case, it also makes sense
Yeah,
because
they're like thin with purpose.
yeah, exactly.
Mm.
And so I kind of like that, because I like that storytelling of like, no, it's not, Ginny isn't this way because that's how women act. It's because she's just a partial
Mhm.
personality. She's just a part of the collective whole. She's that aspect
Mm.
of it. They're all aspects of who Malcolm is or has been.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, I'm sure there's ways you could dive even deeper into like the psychology of all of it if you know more. Um,
Yeah, about how it's like his internalized version of his mom's like panic or anxiety disorders, probably.
yeah,
Just like, the prostitute is the obvious connection, like direct connection to his mother.
yep, yeah, which is why she's both what he despised, because that's what he was,
Mhm.
the trauma that he went through, but also it's his mom. And so that's kind of the personality that also has sort of the best chance and innocence at the same time. There's that
Right.
dichotomy of that. So for that to be the final personality that gets killed by Timmy is very, very telling. And you got Ed,
Oh
who
my
is,
gosh, what a scene.
yeah, yeah.
Like that was just this side of 80s cheese, and I loved it.
Oh yeah.
I loved it. That was so great. Also, speaking of Timmy, what about when he's walking away from the burning car? That is some Walker Texas Ranger level effects right there.
Yeah.
That felt like a vine. Um,
I
it
feel
like
like,
it did not hold up at all. Everything
so
else held up pretty much because I mean they're all physical effects, but that
mhm.
was rough.
they
I laughed.
they did shoot multiple endings, um
Uh-huh.
and different iterations of it to kind of keep what they were going for sort of under wraps and sort of a secret. So I
Mhm.
don't think they may not have had enough time to really like do the digital work that they wanted for that shot, because you're right, that's
Mhm.
like the one shot that just, it's very, that the explosion when you see it from Ed and Rhodes's perspective as they're arguing, and then
Mhm.
the thing explodes on the other side of the building, that
Mhm.
already is a little weak. The comp on it isn't perfect, but you can kind of get
Yeah.
away with it. But you're right. The shot of Timmy walking away is like, ooh. But at the same
Yeah.
time, too, you can sort of explain that away, because now we're viewing
Mhm.
memories a little
Right.
bit. So it's like, yeah, it's inside his head. But you're
Sure.
right. That was
Yeah.
definitely the shot where it's like, all right, a little bit of the budget showing through there. Could have been
Yeah.
more. Because this was I mean,
Yeah.
this was a fairly small in terms of like, you know, film budget. It was $28 million
Mhm.
budget to make this. And when you
Yeah.
think about some of the cast of this is, I mean, they're not, I'm not going to sit here and say they're superstars, but like John Cusack, Ray Liotta, Amanda Peet, Alfred Molina, those are all, you know, veteran like everybody's veteran actors in this. So you don't
Mhm.
have, it's not a bunch of no names. Um,
Mhm.
Rebecca De Mornay, and to do this for 28 million, part of that is they were able to shoot a lot of it on sets. There wasn't
Yeah.
any
Yeah, a lot of it was in Culver City.
yeah, and it wasn't like they didn't have to do location shoots, so they could control everything, because obviously if you're going to have driving rain like that through most of your movie, you've got to have that
Mhm.
on set. There's just no way uh
Mhm.
to do, it's so expensive to shoot that kind of stuff on location. um
Right.
but yeah, it's just, I mean, we didn't even talk about Alfred Molina. Like, I love Alfred Molina. Doc Ock is
Yeah, he's
awesome.
great. Yeah.
And
Yeah, he's great.
he's another one, like, he's one of those that I always sort of trust, but I shouldn't. And yet
Mhm.
he'll play in this. He's playing a good person. But I think it just, that goes all the way back to Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? Like he betrayed
Right.
Indiana Jones, so he can't be trusted ever. Um,
Right.
but like, he's great as in this role as Dr. Malik. Like I enjoyed him.
Hmm. Yeah,
Even
he's very gentle and
yes.
very like he's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Like reaching.
Hmm.
And he once again he sold his role super well.
And he's got that great line when he sits down where he says, "Remember, we need to exterminate the rat, not the house." I
Oh, I
loved
didn't
that
catch that.
line.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I really liked that line. There's a couple of good
Hmm.
lines in here. The poem that they read, that they recite at the
Oh
beginning and the end
yeah.
of the movie, which is a poem called Antigonish, I believe is how it's pronounced.
Hmm.
Um, I love it. It's one of those that just lives in my head all the time, and occasionally it just pops in there. There's just something so cool about it because it's complete. It's simultaneously, to me, really interesting and profound, and also utter nonsense at the same time,
Yeah.
and it works so well that way.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It
be,
does.
because like you hear it and you're like, huh? But then if you think about it, you're like, that's kind of cool, but also, huh?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I love stuff like that. Um,
Um.
Go ahead.
Speaking of you mentioned the hard driving rain. Let's go
Mhm.
ahead. 45 minutes into the show. Let's go ahead and talk about um the rain. Okay, so I'm a long time listener of Film Sack. Listen from the beginning. Um, there is this controversial episode something something, um, about Minority Report, where Dunaway um, goes into um, he can't ever figure out what the water means, and
Yeah.
he and Randy, of course, like link up on this and are like they drew so much attention to it. It has to be there for a reason, and of course Brian and Scott are like, whoa, what, wow, water, what does it mean?
Yeah.
And like it's a long running gag, which is fine. It's very funny,
Mhm.
and obviously Brian like has his thing about it, has made some peace about it, I'm sure. And but I wanted to set him square a little bit, and not so much him, but Scott and Brian. Um, in college, I had to read a book by I think his name was um, Thomas Foster,
Okay.
and it was How to Read Literature Like a Professor. He was a college lit um, prof and a writer, I believe, and it was a book all about symbolism. And I mean, to be fair, he starts out saying, this isn't every time you see snow, it doesn't mean someone's going to die,
Right.
but it also doesn't mean that the author did it on purpose, because sometimes, just like any other symbol in life, sometimes you just like a scene just feels right a certain way.
Mhm.
And so they write the scene, and it happens to have this symbolism in it, and it happens to go with the story that they wrote. So there's that. And watching this movie, like it's raining the whole time. And at some point I'm like, what is the meaning of this? Like what is the meaning of this?
Well,
Like what does this mean? But then they get to the end, and it's about how um it it's about how he needs to change.
mhm.
And in this book, this guy, it's one of the things that I actually remember from the book. He says that water, rain, etc., diving, whatever, sinking, usually has to do with some sort of baptism. Um, you know, getting dunked under the water and coming back up anew. And like within the context of this movie, that's exactly what it's about. Because the entire time in the movie, it's raining, but they're talking about how he needs to come out a different person. His last name is even Rivers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like so, but, and I'm not saying it's on purpose. I'm not saying it actually means that, but I'm just saying. Sorry, I'm just saying. Here's a situation where I heard this once in college. Here's something that lines up with it. You know. Sorry. But like I don't know, that just amused me. That I was like, oh, so does this mean that this is going to happen? And yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Well, and for me, the way that I read it in the movie always has
Sure.
been part two pronged, and this is the beauty of art and film is that
Absolutely.
things like this can happen in a movie, and sometimes the director intends that, sometimes they don't. The artist doesn't
Mhm.
have that intention at all. It just happens, but it's how you perceive it. Like for me, the rain in this is twofold. Number one, in our reality, it's raining hard that night.
Mhm.
And this is all
Mhm.
happening inside of um, Malcolm River's head. So
Cool.
that is
Mhm.
affecting it. But also, it's a
Yeah.
tool that Dr. Malik is using in the treatment of Malcolm to sequester and get all of his personalities into one place and then keep them there. And so,
Right.
in order to keep them at this little motel, and have it be in a way that his mind will be able to rationalize, it's make it in a
Mhm.
downpour where all the roads are washed out, and this
Mhm.
happens especially in the desert. And so now all of these personalities are stuck there. In fact, there was a early draft of the script, the John that Paris is with in her flashback,
Mhm.
the naked man that was
Yeah.
tied to the bed, he was one of the
Mhm. Yeah.
personalities in an early version of the script.
Interesting.
He was actually he was Caroline's agent, and they ended up just kind of trimming it off because it was too bloated at that point.
Yeah.
They just needed to, and it's better for that, I think, just having him be random dude,
I agree.
trim that off. But he was
Mhm.
supposed to be the first of the personalities to die. Um, but to get them all there and then basically just stick them, it'd be like how they did it in like the Evil Dead, for instance. They get to the cabin, but then the bridge goes out. There's no other way to get anywhere now. They're stuck here and they're stuck inside the story. And that was the conceit here for me was no, it's the rain and it's part of his treatment to force them all together. And now they're all stuck here together. And now the personalities slowly, one by one, take each other out. And I love then the slow reveal of kind of supernatural elements with like the bodies disappearing
Yeah,
and the key
the way
tags.
they leaned into that was just so it was I don't not subtle, but it was very skilled,
I
I
thought
felt.
so. I thought so too.
Yeah,
Um, because it's just enough to be like, is it supernatural? Is something
exactly.
weird happening? And then, oh no, it's not actually. Like it is, but it isn't. And I just again, it's
Mhm.
James Mangold, I think, elevating the script with direction but also casting. I think those are the two things. Because the story is interesting. The story is compelling,
Mhm.
but in lesser hands it doesn't work. Like if you don't have
Right.
you mentioned the shootout between Cusack and Ray Liotta at the end.
Mm.
What's great about that and what's great about all of the sort of little action sequences that happen in this, whether it's the fight in the diner or that shootout, is they're not the focus of what we're doing. They're not the intent of the story. So they're very quick and they're very
Mhm.
simple. Like the shootout is literally he starts walking towards him, they fire a couple of times, and that's it.
Mhm.
And I love the simplicity of that. And there's even, and this is another thing to check for when you watch it again. I don't know if you noticed it the second time or not. When Rhodes and Ed are in front of each other after they've shot each other, Rhodes says, he mouths the words, "I didn't do this," and Ed also says, "I know," but they cut the audio down, so you just see them mouthing the words to each other as like Ed sort of
Interesting.
understanding, like the two of them kind of coming to an understanding at the end, but Ed just being like, "This is what I had to do." Like it could have been either one of us, and Paris is the one that needs to survive. Is sort of what Ed's thinking at that
Yeah.
point. So I thought that was another one
Mhm.
of those little, and that I have noticed before. I think I started noticing that on my second time because there's some little audio cues here and there. When Lou gets
Mhm.
attacked in the room, if you're listening, you hear him actually say like, "What are you doing here?" And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden he starts freaking out and slamming on the door and yelling at Ginny again. So
Mhm.
there's stuff like that. It's just a very deftly made movie. I think that's what it is. It's handled very well.
Absolutely. I will say there was one thing that very, very, very much disappointed me. Right at that, right before that shootout, that power line comes down and starts going everywhere.
Oh yeah.
And when I first watched it, I was like, okay, here we go. Chekhov's power line.
Yep.
Let's roll with this. And it never gets used. And it's still disappointing the second time through. It's just it's so like don't set me up like that.
Right.
Like it
We're conditioned as an audience that if there's a
yeah,
power line
yeah, it
flopping around
was
like that, it's going to get somebody.
like
I
I've seen Final Destination. I know how this goes.
exactly. I do wonder if that played into any of their alternate endings that they shot, because I've never seen any
Yeah.
alternate endings for this. So I don't know if they ever did
It
anything
had
beyond
to
like
because
shooting them. But
they did play it up
yeah,
a little
I mean,
bit, I
there's
feel.
camera focusing on it, and I like that in a way too, because
Hmm.
like you said, it is disappointing that nothing happens with that, but it's leading you in this direction. So you're never
Yeah.
because by this point in the movie now we've had the
Does do a
reveal.
lot for the scene, yeah.
Yeah, and we know now we now have been given all the information. So we know what's going on. So now we're trying to piece it together. So you can't have the red herrings be like the red herrings now have to be, ooh, that could be important. Maybe something's gonna happen with that. Nah, no, it won't.
Mhm.
Um and I dug that. So, you know, it's a fun it's a really fun movie, and it does make for some pretty neat little audio clips, which I did capture some audio, and you sent
Yeah.
me some audio, which was
Yeah.
awesome, by the way. I love that you
Thanks.
captured some audio and sent one of them.
Mhm.
I will say that you sent me when we get to it, I'll play it. But one of the clips you sent, I also captured the exact same piece. So
Nice.
when I get done playing some of this, maybe we'll see if you can figure out which one it was that I captured. But
Yeah.
early on so there's moments in this. I love this one because this is when the car with Ray Liotta and Jake Busey's pulling in, and it's that
Mhm.
all of a sudden the music takes that downturn and everything gets a little bit dour and like everything slows down, and we see everybody reacting to this showing up, and this is our first little inkling of anything supernatural because we get Ginny, who again is the personality that is most into superstition. She feels something when that car pulls in, and I love that. And it's just the exchange with her and Lou. So that sounded a little something like this.
Did you feel that?
Feel what?
Cold.
And that's that first little seed of ooh, things might be a little more than
Mhm.
we think, which I really dug.
And like at that time, it like it is a little cheesy, but it's right in the pocket of the cheese of that era in that time.
Yeah.
Like it's directly what you would expect for a scene like that.
Let's see. Jake Busey. I captured one line of his, and it's him talking to Larry. I just loved. Part of it too is the look on his face, like he's looking up through his eyes and those big old horse teeth of his. And he just says,
I'm good at keeping secrets. I got a whopper myself.
I love
and
that line.
and it's so good, and it's before the full reveal of Rhodes being Rhodes.
Mhm.
So I really liked that. This one was, I mentioned this one earlier. This is Rebecca De Mornay and John Cusack in the car. This is right after they hit Alice.
If you help them, assume responsibility.
It is my responsibility. Let go of me.
And like that right away tells us a lot about both of those characters, Ed in particular,
Mhm.
that Ed is going to do the right thing regardless of what other people think. That he's a good guy. And he's the person that we're going to be kind of rooting for, right? So I just
Mhm.
like that. I was pleased with that. The movie opens with, and I captured the poem from both Malcolm and Edward.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So because they recite them very differently.
I was going to say they play it very, very differently.
So this is Malcolm. This is the very first thing you hear in the movie.
As I was going up the stair, I met a man who wasn't there. He wasn't there again today. I wish he'd go away.
Oh, and it's such a haunting beginning to this movie.
Yeah.
And actually, what I think is very clever is that the movie kind of gives away the ending in the opening credits, but you don't notice it. You're not, and unless you sort of know where it's going, you don't notice it in the opening credits. But it's through dialogue with Dr. Malik and Malcolm, where at one point he's like, Dr. Malik is saying things like, "Well, who am I speaking to now?" Or "What should I call you?" When you watch it again, you're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, he's talking to somebody with multiple, personalities inside them." But you're not getting that at first. It's just maybe this, I don't know. It's like he's just meeting him for the first time. Whatever it is, you kind of brush it off. And I thought that was, again, very clever.
Right. Also in that opening sequence, if you watch carefully, there's it's backwards, but there's a drawing of a kid, and it's labeled, so it's like me, mommy, and then there are all of these other like little figures off to the left that are all X'd out, but have like question marks above their head because he doesn't know who they are.
Yeah,
and that also kind of shines a light in that direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's clever, but it's also a ballsy way to open your movie.
Yeah, it is.
Just because
just to lay it out like that.
We're basically gonna tell you what the movie's about, but now, hey, figure it out. And then John Cusack reciting the poem later as Ed. What I liked about this was that opening with Malcolm. It's very haunting. It's very almost sinister in a way. And then you get Ed, who's using it kind of like a mantra. And for that to then also be the way that Dr. Malik kind of pulls Ed into the room, it sort of makes sense that they kind of use this poem that Malcolm knows as a way to trigger who they want. And I kind of enjoyed that. So here's John Cusack reciting the same poem, and it feels incredibly different from him.
When I was going up the stairs, I met a man who wasn't there. He wasn't there again today. I wish he'd go away.
Like, he feels more desperate, right?
And yeah, he's trying to ground himself.
Yeah,
and trying to make that headache not just go away, but not have it affect him.
Yeah. Yep. He wants to stave off the headache and the blackout is what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
This one's called Might. Oh, no, before that, this is George. And I just liked the delivery of this right after Alice gets hit when he's, cradling her on the road and he's yelling at the car.
What have you done? What have you done?
Like, he doesn't know.
That was so painful.
He just doesn't know what to do. And it's kind of microcosm of George as a character, of just not knowing how to react or how to do anything. Let's see. Might be. I don't remember what this one is now. I just recorded it not that long ago. That's bad. Well, here's that.
All right, Scott.
Story's so unbelievable. I think it just might be true.
Oh, yeah.
She's got a point.
That's right. The story's so unbelievable it might just be true. I love that. And I love Ray Liotta's little scoff right at the end. There's just something great about somebody being so annoyed and flustered by other people that they can't even form words. But yeah, I just love that. Story's so unbelievable it might just be true. It was really good. This one's called First of Something. Here we go.
First of all, we do not know who you are.
That's right. Lou.
Yeah.
Listen, it's driving rain out, Lou. That's probably not the way to go into this conversation with a random person on the road. Like, that's asking you for help.
Right. Use context clues, buddy.
Yeah. Lou's kind of a dingus. Let's be honest.
Yeah. He is.
I did get some Rhodes because there was a good little bit of Ray Liotta. Because again, there's those layers to him. So like Cusack and him have, this exchange.
Maybe we should take turns on the radio if that's all right.
No, it's not. I can manage.
And like at first blush, I kind of buy it. Like you don't want just some random person using the radio in your car, even if you are in a weird situation. But then when you think about it more, it's like no, he's just covering his own. He's just covering himself.
Oh yeah, sure.
Him being creepy with Paris.
You got a name?
Paris.
Paris, huh? I get it. Never been.
Well, you ain't going tonight.
And just the creep factor of the creep factor of that scene, because he never breaks eye contact with her and he never blinks. It's just
I noticed that better the second time, and it was just it's creepy.
Again, him and Cusack, this time a little bit more on the same page.
Where's your guy?
He's cuffed to a toilet.
Also, I just like the line "cuffed to a toilet."
Yeah,
something about that. And then here is where he's asserting some authority, and keeping everybody in line as they're sort of unraveling. He's got Larry tied to a chair.
All right, you want a plan? Everybody want a plan? Here's the plan, okay?
Yeah.
No one's gonna move. We're gonna stay here like this in this room until dawn. No one leaves, no one moves.
And like, that was good. But then you captured this.
The second half of it, yeah.
And if he tries anything, I'm gonna shoot him. And if there's something out there and it comes in here, I'm gonna shoot it. And if any one of us tries anything, I'm gonna shoot him.
We get it.
Good.
That's so Rocco from Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
Like
it's so it's ridiculous, but it's also absolutely perfect.
Yeah. Brilliant.
And it makes sense. Like that's going to be his go-to is just whatever happens, I'm just going to shoot him. And we'll deal with it later. I loved that. So yeah, Ray Liotta just being awesome. You captured a couple more I want to get to before I have some Larrys that I need to play.
Oh sure. So much Larry. Larry.
Like this one, it's just such a good line. He's unconscious.
He's unconscious, Larry. He's tied to a post.
Like he's gonna do
I
anything.
laugh every time I hear that line.
He's literally tied to a post. It's not moving. So I like that.
Larry. He's tied to a post.
This one's Larry 2.
His name was Larry too.
Yeah.
Which is great. I love that. His name was Larry 2.
His name was Larry too.
He's just like, he's on the verge of crying that whole time. John Hawkes is just so good. I love his performances and stuff because I just always buy into it. And then we've got Malcolm. Okay, this one.
Malcolm is in the midst of a medical treatment.
Yep. Oh.
Every time I hear that, I'm even looking at the caption. I know what word is coming, but I hear Malcolm in the middle. And every single time I've listened to that file like 6 times, and every time it's just right there.
Yep.
Malcolm's in the middle.
I loved Larry is my favorite character in the movie, hands down.
He's great.
But like when Cusack is stitching up her neck, which is interesting, right? Because she got hit by a car, but it was her neck that got injured, and apparently her legs weren't broken.
Yeah, I thought that was I thought that was interesting too.
Yeah, I could think about that too much, but then I'm just like, nah, whatever. Just hand wave it away. That she's injured. That's the important piece. But when Ed is stitching her up, and it's just Larry standing behind watching it, and his comment.
I wish I had beige.
No, this is fine.
That would have been better.
I wish I had beige.
Yeah.
Oh, Larry, don't change. When we meet Larry for the first time, he's watching Wheel of Fortune, which is always fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I just loved.
Buy a vowel, you idiot.
Yes.
Like that's all he's got to occupy himself. This is 2003, kids. The internet was there, but it wasn't ubiquitous. He's in the middle of the desert, so all he can do is play his Wheel of Fortune drinking game. They got to buy a vowel so he can take a shot of Southern Comfort because he knows how to party.
Yeah, he does.
When Caroline is trying to like schmooze her way into the nicest room, that whole scene was great because she absolutely 100% doesn't care about this guy at all. He's just some yokel out in the middle of nowhere. And she puts down the 50 and slides it over there, and he looks at it, and then he looks at the stack of cash in her purse and just his reaction.
It's very cozy.
It's very cozy. Thinking, yep, I'm going to steal your money later. So I loved that. He also, though, I mean, Larry, for all of his, like, him being my favorite character in it, he definitely, and it makes you wonder how he lost all his money in Vegas, because he does not like Paris being a prostitute at all. Like, that is the big thing. And I know part of it is that's going to be Malcolm's personality and sort of his...
In Malcolm's head, yeah.
Yeah, in Malcolm's head, and his, like, distaste for his mom because she was a prostitute. But he just immediately treats her awful. And this line...
Well, I don't like looking at trash.
Oh, just terrible. Because at that point, the first time I saw the movie, I'm like, well, I hate you. And he grew on me after that. And they eventually, like, he got past it and was able to have conversations with her before, obviously, getting shot. Yeah. And they, I wouldn't say bonded, but they at least didn't end with an animosity between them. But that beginning, whew.
Yeah.
And then this was the last one, and it was just, it's the believability. It's the thing that makes his unbelievable story believable.
I wasn't trying to hide him. It was hot out.
I wasn't trying to hide him. It was hot out. Like, obviously that makes perfect sense. And it was just a great, like, moment. And that's the moment where I'm like, okay, no, this is totally what this guy did. So those are the sound clips that I got. Now, of the 4 that you got, which one do you think I also copied? Because I'm curious.
I want to say the unconscious line.
Believe it or not, no. It was the second half of Rhodes's rant talking about
second
shooting
half.
everybody.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
I had that exact clip all the way up to, like, the good, and I was like, oh, cool.
Oh, you have to add the good. That's
yeah,
just excellent punctuation.
Yeah, it's just good timing. But yeah, I mean, this movie's got a lot of good lines in it. It's just got outstanding performances, and the direction is good. I love a good small scale movie like this, and literally small scale, and that's all inside this guy's head. But, like, setting everything there then in this one location creates the claustrophobia and the idea that they can't get away from each other, and the murder mystery aspect of it, and then taking and then there were none, that base skeleton of a story, and retelling it, but giving us something different about it. Not just a murder mystery, and not a murder mystery with some supernatural elements, but now we add that extra layer on of no, this is, this is all playing out inside this person's head who has dissociative identity disorder. Whether or not the movie's accurate about that is debatable, but I think that using that as a plot device was an interesting way to tell this story, and kind of, like I said at the beginning, get into the mind of the killer, which so many people always want in their movies like this. And just the idea of identity in itself. Like, Ed is reading Being and Nothingness. That's the book he has in the car and you see that, and, like, it's great because it can be just this fun surface level, or you can really dive into the psychology of a lot of different stuff in this movie. And it's I think the reason that I can keep coming back to it and watching it more and more. So, and that is huge testament to James Mangold.
Absolutely. You mentioned earlier in Lesser Hands, okay, two things. The way the ending unfolds, like that is like pacing, like the last, I don't know, 20 minutes of this movie are just like what makes the movie after everything else that makes the movie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it just goes in a different direction, but it goes in that direction because of the beats of there's the birthday and then there's the states and then there's the mirror and just how that plays out and unravels just so. I think if any of those 3 points were a little off, a little more, I think it would have been too much in another place and it would have killed it, I think.
Yeah.
And
like
yeah, go ahead.
pacing is one of the most important things when it comes to a movie, because an hour and a half long movie, if it's poorly paced, can feel like it takes forever, and a 3 hour movie paced well can go by in no time. And this being an hour and a half long, I think is perfect. It doesn't need to be longer than that.
No.
And so then inside that hour and a half, how to pace it right. You have to build your tension. You have to build your suspense. So you're going to start off a little bit slower, and you're going to give us a little bit of background on most of the characters, but not all of them, and just bring it along and bring it along. But it hits that about 56 minutes is when we get the reveal of dissociative identity disorder. And, but it doesn't give us all of it yet. They just start to hint at it. And then it's over that next half hour that they give you that full story. We get how all these people relate to each other. And meanwhile, the killings and the death are ramping up at the same time. So you're right. It just sort of like it kicks into another gear there. And without that, it doesn't work. You need all of that to happen the way that it did.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned, this is my other point. You mentioned how it was an Agatha Christie story, and I didn't know that until I read the Wikipedia right before I hopped on here. When I was watching it the second time, I was like, this is absolutely a story that I would have read specifically in 7th grade reading class. Like the way the story rises, the twist, and all of that. It made me think of a short story that I think most Americans have read, called "The Most Dangerous Game" by Richard Connell.
Yep.
And like after I had that realization, I'm like, well, hold on. So I'm comparing this to like 7th grade level lit. Am I downplaying it? And like, no, because like Most Dangerous Game gave way to one of the most beloved movies of John Woo's career in Hard Target.
Yeah.
And like, so me saying that doesn't, it almost makes it like a little more compelling to me because it's you have this level of story and this level of accessibility and ease to understand and all of that, but it's that story with a lot of good like kneading and folding in of details, and it's just they take that and they, like we were saying earlier, they just elevate it somehow. Not that this is the best movie you'll ever see, but like it's really really good.
It is. It's better than the sum of its parts, and its parts are very good.
Absolutely.
The cast is very good. The director is good. The script is decent. But it all comes together with this great art direction and just this driving rain, and everything is dark, and all of your backgrounds, because it's shot on a stage.
Music was pretty
shot
good
at
too.
night. Yeah, Alan Silvestri did the score.
Mm-hmm.
And the music is great, and just the look of everything, and the way the DP, the way he lit everything, is very cinematic, very harsh. It's dark without being so dark you can't tell what's going on. Then when you watch it again and you see the little breadcrumbs that they fed you, the stuff in the opening credits, or seeing the silhouette in of the killer in the window, that kind of stuff, and like giving you little bits and pieces of what the story is going to be without having to come right out and say it, and then you can enjoy the reveal when it happens. And it's adding that and then those layers on top of just what is already a very good structure of a murder mystery, which is and then there were none. Like it's like using strangers on a train as sort of the basis for your story. That concept and that idea is very simple, and there's a lot of ways you can go with it. And that's what I like about this, is it doesn't try to be too much. It just was like, we're going to take this idea, we want to mash this onto it as well, and how can we do that in a way that's compelling? And it works. And I just think that is a testament to the director and the cast of really understanding the assignment that they were going for. And I think
yeah, it's not.
Go ahead.
Go. Like it's not just let's do a movie or a story in this genre and make a statement about the genre and try to do the genre better. It's let's make this specific story better with these characters and these parts. Obviously, they're modern version of it, but everything feels not to a point of like Wes Anderson or anything, but everything feels so specific and so shaped.
Yep.
In the world, in the movie, all of the things together, it just melts together so well as a version of that story. It just doesn't, like you're saying, it doesn't try to overstep. And
yeah,
it seems so simple, but especially in something that is so overdone as murder mysteries, it's so easy to do.
Well, and what's great about it too is like you can tell James Mangold is a director that wants to do character pieces, and some of his best work is Logan, 3:10 to Yuma, Walk the Line, Ford versus Ferrari, which are at their heart, all of those are character pieces first, and then they add on if they have any action sequences or anything like that. That's bonus beyond there. But his big thing is Girl Interrupted, Copland. Kate and Leopold is one that he did, which is, kind of a romantic comedy, but also character study. And that's, I think, what makes this work, is it was about the characters inside of it first, and they're what's important. And then we'll add what we need to on that. So they create the atmosphere around that, and they don't make something like the shootout could have taken a long time, could have been like a big drawn out thing, and the electrical wire play into it and all that kind of stuff. And they didn't do that. They were just like, it's like 30 seconds of a few shots and it's over, because the shootout itself isn't what's important. What's important is the reasoning behind it and the characters involved in it. And that's the way Ed was going to do that. He just starts walking towards him and he gets shot however many times, like 2 or 3 times, and he never stops because that's what he needs to do. So just really, that's what I like about Mangold, is he really treats his characters well. So yeah, I mean, I'm so glad that you agreed to talk to me about this one, because I have been just like vibrating with energy of wanting to talk about this movie for so long. And I'm really glad that you enjoyed it too. Because there's always,
I'm glad you assigned it to me. It was fantastic. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a little worry when a movie is when I'm this close to a movie and I show it to somebody, like I want them to like it, but I also know, look, not everybody's going to like the same thing I do. But it's great when you can. And like you took a lot of things from it that I do, but you also saw some things differently, which is always a cool thing. Like that's what makes a conversation like this fun, is that we're going to come at it from different angles in some parts, and some parts we're going to mesh. And it's a lot, it's just a lot of fun to have that. So thank you so much for watching this and coming on and talking with me about it. It was great fun.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thanks for the invitation.
Now, where can people find you or things that you work on or anything like that?
Okay, I am most active on Threads at Extra Lettuce. I'm pretty much at Extra Lettuce just about anywhere except TikTok. But primarily, I'm also also a channel artist. You can, I don't have a store on my site, but you can see examples of my work and contact me there or through Instagram or wherever at extralettuce.com.
Excellent. Extralettuce.com. Go check that out. And the chainmail stuff you do is really cool looking, by the way. Gotta say.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
I love too when you get the contrasts going on in there. I know you had one recently where it was a lot of blues and there was one that had some bronze in there. And that bronze popped so much inside of that.
It like it's the same bracelet. I just changed one element of it, but the bronze changes so much that it almost looks like a completely different thing.
Yeah, it kind of does, which is really cool. So definitely check that out, extralettuce.com. And that's where you will find Jonathan's work, all that chainmail stuff. Now, this show, I do record live 8 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday nights at twitch.tv/TV's Travis. You can come hang out in the live chat room. And then it does come out as a podcast on Wednesdays, anywhere you get your podcast, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Podcast Alley, Podcast Addict. It's all over those. And of course, YouTube as well. You can see a video version of it there. And I really do appreciate you listening to the show. If you do, and spreading it word of mouth. Subscription on YouTube is always helpful as well, because it does help that channel become more noticed by the algorithm. So subscriptions there on YouTube at TV's Travis is great. And I'm on all the socials as TV's Travis. Love to chat with people, talk movies. I'm a big Highlander fan, and the Highlander remake is slowly moving forward. So I'm excited about that. Or if it's just about anything, really. I mean, any kind of movie stuff. Give me your hot takes. I'm doing a 30-day movie challenge, which I'm missing days here and there, but I'm keeping up with it as much as I can, as far as just kind of movies that mean something to me. So you can see those on all the different social media networks as well. But Jonathan, thank you so much for being here this week, and we'll definitely have to do this again. We'll find another movie. Maybe next time we'll find something that is real close to you, and I can see it for the first time.
Yeah, that'd be great. And again, thanks for having me. It's been a joy.
Very much so. Same for me. It's been great fun, and we'll definitely do it again. Now, next week, I'm going to be going back a little ways, and we're going to be talking about Alfred Hitchcock. My guest has never seen most of Hitchcock's movies, and Jeannie's been on before a while back when we talked about her first time seeing The Little Mermaid of all movies. But we're going to go for another thriller. We're going to watch Rear Window, which I'm excited about. Because there's a lot to that movie, and there's been a couple of remakes of it, and I can't wait. So that's next week. Rear Window is going to be our movie from Alfred Hitchcock. So if you're into that, you want to come back and check that out, and also check out the archives, all 240 now 3 episodes of the show you can go back and listen to. But until next time, just remember to enjoy your movies. And look, the world's crazy out there, so let's be excellent to each other. This has been Wait You Haven't Seen.
I'm calm. I'm very fucking calm.